The movie begins in a town named Rust Bank, where Delroy talks to Lane Claxon and informs him that he won't sell his brewery. He says that the brewery is the heart of their town, and his wife, Wilma, agrees. They pick up their daughter Kat and decide to go home. It begins raining as they drive home, and Kat screams as she sees a two-headed worm in her apple. Delroy gets distracted, and the car swerves off the road and down a bridge. The car enters the water, and Wilma gives Kat her necklace and informs her to swim to the surface. She stays in the car and tries waking Delroy up, but they eventually drown. Kat narrates how she was meant to hate herself for the rest of her life, but fate had other ideas. She says everyone has demons, and hers have names. In the underworld, soul jockeys bring souls to the Scream Fair run by Buffalo Belzer, and the souls are tortured while going through the rides. Wendell and Wild, Belzer's sons, move through his hair and use special hair cream to regrow the hair. Wild drinks the hair cream, and Wendell blames him for their situation. Wild makes Wendell drink the hair cream, and they get tipsy. They see a girl, and as they reach out to her, Belzer tells them to get back to work. 5 years later, Mrs. Hunter takes Kat back to Rust Bank, and she panics as she sees the bridge. She sees that the brewery burnt down, and Hunter says they didn't want to give her more bad news. The brewery's destruction had a domino effect, and the town worsened. They arrive at a Catholic girls' school, and Hunter gives Kat some of her dad's belongings. Siobhan, Sweetie, and Sloane emerge and welcome her to the school. Kat tries to ignore them because they are weird. A trans boy named Raoul stands on a balcony and accidentally pushes a rock. Kat has a vision and pushes Siobhan out of the way. Kat walks into the building and enters Father Best's office. He walks on a treadmill and falls as he tries to shake her. Kat realizes Best's needs money from the government to save his school. He gives her a pair of uniforms, and some sisters take her to her room. She turns on her dad's old speaker and puts on her punk rock outfit. She goes to her class, and Raoul hides on seeing her. Kat sits behind him and tells him bad things happen to people who are her friends. Sister Helly steps into the class and teaches the class about adaptable nature. She shows them an octopus that changes its physical form and asks Kat to come and look at it. The octopus transforms into a scary face, and the room turns red. Kat hears a banging sound from the table, and a strange light strikes her hand. Helly takes her out of the room and calms her. She sees a strange mouth on her hand, and Helly tells her she is special. She instructs her to keep the mark a secret, and Kat gets angry and walks away. Meanwhile, Wendell and Wild sit in Belzer's nostril and receive a Beelzebubble. It tells them they have a Hell Maiden, and they contact her. Irmgard and Lane play golf with Bests and realize he is competing with them. They say they want to build a prison to get government funds and realize that Bests knows they caused the brewery fire. Irmgard kills Bests with a golf club, and they throw him into a frozen lake. Mariana, Raoul's mom, talks to someone over the phone and says she needs witnesses to pin the brewery fire to the Claxons. Raoul stands on the roof, and after melting the ice, he begins painting. Kat sits in her room and stares at pictures of her parents. She dreams of the car crash, and Wendell and Wild drag her out of the water. They tell her she can summon her to the land of the living and lie that they can raise the dead. She agrees to summon them, and they tell her to find a Beelzebub that will give her further instructions. Kat wakes up and returns to the classroom. She takes the bear from the drawer and narrowly escapes a janitor named Manberg. Belzer wakes up and continues torturing souls with his ride. Meanwhile, Wendell and Wild continue their job and accidentally kill a bug. The hair cream touches the bug and brings it to life. Wild shows Wendell, and they use it to revive Kat's parents. The students mourn Best's death as his coffin is lowered. Kat realizes it's a full moon, and Siobhan and her friends convince her to tell Best's goodbye. The students enter the bus, but Kat drags Raoul as her witness. They walk to her parents' grave, and Kat asks the bear for instructions. Raoul helps her fix its string, and Kat repeats the spell it says. Wendell and Wild see the summoning spell and use soul jockeys to lift them. They emerge at the wrong part of the cemetery and don't see Kat. Kat gets upset and walks away. Helly appears behind Kat and Raoul, and Kat lies about not wanting to see her parents' graves alone. They return to school while Wendell and Wild use the hair cream to raise Bests from the dead. They give him a makeover and ask him to pay for their services. Best shows them that there aren't any people to pay for their services and they cry. Wendell and Wild threaten to kill Bests, but he remembers the Klaxons. He informs them that the Klaxons will pay for their services, and they celebrate. Kat and Helly return to school, and Helly reminds her not to tell anyone about her mark. She says that Kat is a Hell Maiden, and Kat blames herself for her parents' death. Kat walks into the building, and Siobhan meets her. Kat asks her if she has been in prison before because she thinks prisons are nice places. Siobhan says she hasn't, and Kat takes the food from her and enters her room. The following day, Raoul suggests that some students played a prank on Kate, but she insists that her demons lied to her. Best suddenly speaks through the speakers and informs the students he is alive. They get excited, and as Helly steps out of the room, she moves through the ground and enters a secret room. Kat rushes out of the class with Raoul and goes to Best's office. Kat confronts him and says the demons were meant to bring her parents back from the dead, not him. He says he is more important and instructs some nuns to take them away. Bests calls the Klaxons, and they are shocked to see his call. Helly enters a room and sees Manberg. He reminds her how she quit on him, and she says she couldn't continue summoning demons just for him to capture them. They argue, and he says he knows there is a new Hell Maiden in the school. Meanwhile, Raoul and Kat are forced to write on a blackboard. The nuns fall asleep, and Kat and Raoul leave the room as Helly enters. The Klaxons search for Best's body in the water, and he startles them. He informs the Klaxons he can raise the old guard members to vote for the construction of their prison. The Klaxons agree to pay for the demons' services but instruct them not to raise anyone else from the dead. That night, Kat meets the demons in the cemetery, and they show her the hair cream. They trick her into swearing allegiance, and the mouth on her hand glows. They instruct her to get food for them while they force Raoul to dig up the graves. The demons give the undead people a makeover and instruct them to vote for the prison. Raoul watches as Wendell and Wild drink the cream. He asks them to stop, but they refuse and fall asleep. Raoul frees himself from the ropes and takes the cream. He goes to Kat's parents' grave, revives them, and tells them to go to the town and find Kat. Wendell and Wild arrive and attack Raoul. Belzer realizes that his hair is falling off, and he asks Wendell and Wild to continue working. He forces their decoys out of his nose and realizes they aren't in the underworld. Kat walks through the street and realizes that the demons have revived several people. She rushes to her house and wrests the commands of her hand. She enters the house and reunites with her parents in the basement. She blames herself for their death, but they tell her it wasn't her fault. They watch as she struggles with her hand and informs them that she made a deal with demons to bring them back from the dead. Wilma tells her that Raoul brought them back and not the demons. Kat instructs her parents to stay in the basement while she goes to the cemetery. She distracts their pet, Spark Plug, with the food she bought and frees Raoul. Wendell and Wild emerge and see Kat's boots on the floor. They assume Spark Plug ate her and say they'll feel bad when the cream finishes. Meanwhile, Belzer interrogates the soul jockeys and crushes them as he finds out his sons are in the land of the living. Kat and Raoul return to her house, but Helly appears in front of them. She realizes that Kat has summoned her demons and instructs Raoul to stay with her parents. Helly takes Kat to the secret room and asks Manberg for his help. He tells her that her fever is spreading and says she needs to be quarantined. Helly convinces him to bloodbind them, and he warns her that the process could kill her. He cuts their hand, binds them together, and they walk into a dark room. Mariana sits with a council, and they decide to vote against the prison. The undead old guard members enter the room, and Mariana realizes they are legally allowed to vote. They win the election, and the prison is officially approved. Bests celebrate with the Klaxons, and they give him a bag of money. Bests leaves the room, and Siobhan sees him. She walks to her parents and informs them that she is aware their prison idea isn't good. They inform her that they will send failed students from the school to the prison. Siobhan sees some tractors arrive and sarcastically promises to be present at the unveiling ceremony. Helly tells Kat that her memories fuel her fever. Her eyes begin to glow, and they project Kat's memories. Her memories form a monster, and Kat fights it. She fights the memories and phases through a wall. Bests walks to the cemetery, and Wendell and Wild inform him that Raoul raised Kat's parents. He informs them to prepare the wagon and says he has a plan. Kat phases through a wall and makes peace with her memories. Helly congratulates her, and they realize she can see the future. Helly passes out and injures her head. Belzer stands up and decides to go to the land of the living. In Kat's house, Raoul dances to punk rock music while Wilma and Delroy answer the door. The demons kidnap them, and Raoul rushes to call Helly. Manberg treats Helly and tells them that Kat's fever has subsided. Raoul rushes in and informs them that the demons took Kat's parents and want to put her in the ground. Manberg says they have 2 Hell Maidens to fight, but Helly decides to rest for a while. Siobhan searches for Kat, and her pet goat takes a piece of her cloth and runs away. Kat arrives at the cemetery and orders the demons to release her parents. They try to command her, but she says she isn't under their control. Siobhan enters the cemetery and sees the others. She informs them that her parents deceived them and shows the fake bills they gave Bests. Siobhan asks for their help and says they have to stop her parents. Kat has a vision where the Klaxons destroy the town and build their prison. The ground begins rumbling, and Belzer emerges from the ground. He searches for them and grabs their wagon as they try to run away. He asks Wendell and Wild why they betrayed him and says his Scream Fair doesn't need a redesign. He decides to punish them but sees Raoul's artwork on several roofs. He realizes that parents are meant to protect their children, but he hasn't protected them. He informs Wendell and Wild that they had siblings who left and never returned. Manberg arrives and agrees to release Belzer's kids if he releases his friends. He realizes that the demons use his hair cream to bring people from the dead and says the effects don't last long. Belzer returns to the underworld, and Kat's parents convince her to use the remaining cream to revive a brewery worker to be a witness. They rush to the town to protect it from the Klaxons, and Irmgard instructs the old guards to crush them. Kat and the others hold the tractors and make them crash. She sees a vision where they successfully stop the tractors, and some soul jockeys emerge and take the old guards away. The police arrive and apprehend the Klaxons as Mariana uses the undead brewery workers as witnesses. Raoul announces that the Klaxons have been arrested, and the townspeople celebrate. Kat hugs her parents, but they start coughing. They lie on the floor, and Kat tells them her vision of how Rust Bank becomes lively again. They tell her they are proud of her as they pass away. Kat cries, and the demons cheer her up by showing her their amusement park idea. She sees that it is beautiful and asks her dead parents what they think. She narrates that she doesn't have to hate herself because she is a Hell Maiden with amazing friends. The end. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.